Some good news. Just when the Yes campaign on The Voice were looking like maybe they were clawing back a little bit of traction by this kind of softly approach, and rather than insulting everyone, as Noel Pearson and others had been doing, they decided to try and be a little bit more reasonable. Just at that point that the Yes campaign was thinking, oh, hang on, along comes Julie Bishop, and suddenly, Julie Bishop tells us to vote yes. So suddenly you can hear around the nation women kicking off their red stilettos, men rushing to say, no, I must vote no. The worst foreign minister we ever had, the woman responsible for getting behind Malcolm Turnbull and putting him into power and getting rid of Tony Abbott. What a disgrace that was. Well, Julie Bishop supports The Voice.
Well, you know what else?
Great reason to vote no, folks. They keep on coming.
Well, you know what else, Rowan, she supported when she was in office? She supported, so to hear her talk about how this is a big thing, a big advance for progress and human rights, nonsense, Julie Bishop. Julie Bishop, only came to prominence because she had, good style, wore designer clothes, the media loved her, and she was part of that whole Turnbull mob.
She was very good to the media, wasn't she?
Yeah, and
very
she was
sharp
celebrated,
stilettos,
and she was
that was
celebrated.
The one stuck in Tony Abbott's back.
She was celebrated by people who said, oh, this is the kind of liberal that we would love. Of course, we'll never vote for that sort of liberal, but we love that sort of liberal anyway. But the important thing about Julie Bishop is, recall that back in 2017, she pushed really, really hard, and only, thank God, a few people in the party room stood up to her and stopped it. She wanted an extradition treaty with China, which would mean that China, which has got, through Hong Kong, has got Australians on, a wanted list for supporting democracy, which is, imprisoning people like Cheng Lei, Australian citizens. She wanted to be able to make it easier for China to put in an application to say, oh, I'm sorry, James Mara has been writing some very nasty columns about Xi Jinping. We'd like to have a word to him.
Yeah, that she is become a figure of derision, I think. She has become the female Malcolm Turnbull.
Queen of the bedwetters.
Bitter.
What more can I say?
Bitter.
The original
and just
teal.
in post-political career, just interested in getting some headlines, having a go at the libs. That's pretty much the only time you hear from her. Either she's doing some fashion shoot, wearing something interesting.
Well, the good news is shows that, Peter Dutton is heading in the right direction. Peter Dutton's opposition to The Voice is the right thing to be doing. He's over the target. Keep on going, Peter Dutton. When you've got Turnbull and Bishop lined up against you, you must be doing something right. You must be absolutely bang on heading in the right direction. So keep on going. Keep the bedwetters out of the picture and you'll win the next election. You can win the next election. Oppose The Voice and oppose net zero, because net zero is an absolute disaster for this country, as we're seeing all around the world. But let's just quickly go to some of the other voices that have been speaking up about The Voice. If you are in any way concerned that, the no case is exaggerating and suggesting that there might be a treaty or there might be this, and this is all just hyperbole, no, have a listen to these two. First up, let's listen to teal, I can't remember her surname, on the need for reparations. That means you have to pay permanently to non-Indigenous Australians have to pay permanently to Indigenous Australians. Have a listen.
There does need to be reparations here. There does need to be compensation. There does need to be these tough, I think, decisions.
They're not tough decisions if you're on the receiving end. If you're on the receiving end of the money, it's not a tough decision. Yes, please, I'd like loads of reparations and compensation. Keep it coming. If you're on the giving end, it is actually tough because you might not have the money.
Well, Rowan, the thing is, too, about this sort of thing, there's been a lot of talk about where are the multicultural and migrant communities going to go on The Voice? And all the official multicultural organizations, presumably because they want government grants and things like that, are all saying, oh, yes, we're absolutely for The Voice. But I reckon that clip needs to be shown in migrant communities across Australia, because the thing that they're saying there is that, hey, you may have come here last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like I did, but you somehow have to pay reparations for something that supposedly happened 200 years ago.
Exactly. Rita?
For migrants, I've always said this entire narrative, this whole concept of always was, always will be, is just a PC way of saying go back to where you came from. You're not as entitled to call this country yours as someone who's heritage is different. It is a very intolerant message, and migrants hear it, whether it's being said in those terms or not. And yes, you've got migrants who come here with nothing, come here to give their children a better quality of life, and within 10, 20 years they have done that. Their next generation prospers even more. They work so hard, and for them to then have to pay something
for some
for
historical
sins committed
grievance, not to the people who suffered from the grievance.
It is, yeah, to people who haven't suffered
exactly.
from that.
Yeah, let's hear from Linda Burney, our talented Indigenous Affairs Minister, with her opinions.
There is $5.8 million set aside for the establishment of a Makarrata Commission, and the Makarrata Commission would have two jobs. First, the national process of truth-telling, and a national agreement-making, which is really code for treaty, without saying it, and I can understand why that term was used. And you would have heard very much that the government is committed to the three elements of the Uluru Statement, as Michael has outlined. The first is voice, the second is the Makarrata Commission, with these two responsibilities.
So pay attention there, because either categorically, indisputably, Anthony Albanese is a liar or Linda Burney is a liar. Deception is at the heart of the voice. That is what she admitted there. It is code for treaties. This is that. Deception is there. Anthony Albanese has said many times that the voice is not leading to a treaty, but it is. And it's been made absolutely abundantly clear. Australians are being lied to by their Prime Minister and their government. It's a disgrace. Vote no.
Well, the Prime Minister wasn't misleading at the start, because he said, even on election night, very first thing he talked about was the voice, and he said he would implement the Uluru Statement from the Heart in full. So if you look at the Uluru Statement from the Heart, it's all laid out there. This isn't some sort of a conspiracy theory. It isn't conjecture. It's there in the statement.
And now they're denying it.
It's there in black and white. It is precisely
Well,
what will come after the voice. There will be truth-telling. There will be treaty.
And it's all about money. Billions of dollars of your money.
And this is what, they're now saying openly. People like Megan Davis, the UNSW law professor, is one of the big architects. She had a piece in The Australian just yesterday saying, we need to get the voice to get the treaty, essentially. And what needs to be spelled out now, I think, is really the idea of why that treaty would be such a disaster for this country, how a country cannot make a treaty with its own citizens, which is what John Howard very smartly pointed out through his entire time as Prime Minister and beyond, and that, in fact, this does mean reparations, division based on who your ancestors were.